feel like the library gods did me dirty when I went to the library this past time because I had the most incredible haul. Some books that I've been waiting for forever on my holds list finally came in. I took my daughter, we browsed, we had a great time. And then as we're leaving the library, I wanted to stop and look at the free book cart that they always have right inside the foyer. And my daughter was like, "No, mom, please, no more books. Let's go home." Granted, I had just picked her up from school. She wants a snack. So I was like, okay, I didn't stop to look at the free books. And the second my daughter and I step out of the door, I hear this wet splatter and I feel just chunks of something raining down on both of us. And as you can guess, we were both shit on by a bird. Now, I know that they say that that means that good luck is heading your way, and it freaking better be. But not only did I have a massive pile of books in my hand, as you will see in a moment, but it got on my daughter. And my daughter has incredibly thick, curly hair. And all I can think of is how when we get home now, we immediately have to put her in the shower and then get me in the shower to begin cleaning up the cacophony of shit that is all over my hair, my back, the books I'm carrying. It was a freaking disaster. My library is maybe 100 feet from the shoreline of Lake Michigan. So there are a ton of seagulls. And these seagulls just they fly everywhere. When you pull up to the library, there's a crowd of them somewhere. And I'm telling you, all over this gigantic pile of books that I'm like trying to keep in my hand. I've got my bag, I'm keeping track of my daughter. We're walking into a parking lot. And I was just like, what the hell? If I would have just stopped and looked at this book cart, none of this would have happened. Luckily, we were able to get inside. My husband was home. He could help me like disinfect the books and just like wipe everything down, throw it all in the laundry. I'm a little bit scared to go to the library, to be honest with you. Just a teensy bit. My love of books and picking up my holds obviously is going to supersede any of that, but I couldn't believe that just happened. And then I Googled it, and apparently, getting shit on by a bird is less common than you getting struck by lightning. Make that make sense. So I'm expecting some good luck to come my way. I do want to show you the incredible book haul that I picked up this week. I picked up volumes 2 and 3 of the Emma M. Lyon series. I just finished volume 1. I am obsessed. No wonder these are taking the bookish community by storm. They're funny, they're well written, and as someone who has been a self professed Anglophile my whole life, I just find them very satisfying. If you are a classics reader or if you just like general cultural and historical fiction, I think you'll really enjoy these. I'm not saying they read like a classics novel, but they have that historical context that feels very familiar. I'm really excited to jump into volumes 2 and 3. They're a little longer, which I'm happy about. Volume 1 was, I think, less than 100 pages, or like just barely over 100 pages. As some people have mentioned in my comments, the first volume is not the best, that it like takes a little while to get into the novel, which personally was not my experience. I loved volume 1. So if we're only going up from here, I'm in for a great reading experience. And then the next that I got was Hooked by Asako Yuzuki. She, of course, is the author of Butter. I have not read Butter. This one sounded really interesting. Plainly put, it's a novel of obsession, and it follows Eriko and Shoko. Eriko has a very prestigious life in Japanese finance, and she follows this lifestyle vlogger named Shoko. And Eriko orchestrates a meeting that is meant to be perceived as just happenstance, but of course she manipulates it and finds herself very quickly becoming obsessed with Shoko. And the two of their lives begin to sort of unravel parallel to one another. But what really intrigued me about Hooked is that this is a very over the top surreal look at how women crave community and connection and the lengths that people will go to find what they are missing in their everyday connections. So I found that really compelling. I can't wait to dive into this. I do want to read Butter. I don't know, it's not one that I've like had on the top of my TBR. Honestly, I can really lump all of this in together, but I am going to go through one by one. These are all poetry books. I'm going to admit this here because this is a safe space. I'm doing something that the artist way is helping me accept about myself is that I really enjoy reading and writing poetry, and I want to become a better poet. And even saying that out loud, the like blurt in my head is, oh my God, like you sound pretentious. Who reads and writes poetry? I do. I love it. I love the play on words. I love the method of saying so much in the smallest amount of words. Sometimes a poem needs you to say a little bit more, but you get my point. Like whenever I'm in a writing funk or a creative funk, I start writing haikus. I feel like this is so lame to admit, but this is my truth, you guys. And so, in an effort to become a better poet, a better poetry writer, I need to read more poetry. This was recommended in the New York Times Book Review. This is A Suit or a Suitcase by Maggie Smith, and it is a poetry collection of hers. She writes about the strangeness of the everyday, wanting a sense of belonging. But I liked what the dust jacket says, which is, do I wear it or does it carry me? Is the body a suit or a suitcase? I'm intrigued. Next, I got a poetry collection called The Wild Iris by Louise Gluck, and she is a winner of the Pulitzer Prize. If you're in the literary fiction sphere, you will probably have heard of her work before. Then I got Dorothy Parker's collection of poems by Penguin Classics. This I'm super excited to read. She is a very well accomplished, she is important contribution to modern American poetry. And then the last two books that I got were two selected poetry collections by Mary Oliver. I have read Devotions and I own Dreamwork, so I'm assuming that some of those poems will be also in here. But I love Mary Oliver. Maybe that makes me basic. I don't really care. But I am so fascinated by her ability to take a seemingly insignificant aspect of the natural world and make it into this larger relatable theme that points to something in the human condition. I like the way that she speaks about pain and joy and how those two have a very rhythmic relationship of dancing back and forth. You know, there's this push pull between our pain and our joy and how they manifest on the day to day. And I think Mary Oliver is a modern American poet that writes about that relationship incredibly well. She's an amazing poet to read if you have always wanted to dip your toes into poetry but don't really know where to start. Her poems are very easy to read. You don't have to do a ton of work to sift through the symbolism or the imagery or some of the other mechanisms that can make poetry a little bit intimidating. And then the last book that I got kind of is in a category of its own. It's technically fiction, but it's Simple Passion by Annie Ernaux. She is someone that I have been wanting to start reading her work for a while. There's a few female authors that I really want to highlight reading this year. Annie Ernaux is one of them. Clarice Lispector is another. But someone on TikTok said that Annie Ernaux is like Joan Didion, but more emotionally intelligent and it just goes deeper with a lot of her thoughts and concepts. Say less. Absolutely, yes. So, this was the only book that my library had on the shelf. There's a couple of others that I want to check out. And speaking of Clarice Lispector, I put a bunch of her books on hold. I want to read Agua Viva, which I feel like is most people's favorite by her. I am going into this summer desirous of reading kick ass female writers' works. That's going to be my priority for my summer reading 2026. With that in mind, I am turning to Netgalley to find upcoming novels that I'd like to read this year. Did you know that you can download or request to read advanced reader copies of books before they're released to the general public on Netgalley? Creating an account is free, and while the website takes a little getting used to in terms of finding and navigating titles, it offers an incredibly wide range of genres and publishers to request titles. One of my favorite ways to search is by genre type. I tend to read mostly literary fiction, so Netgalley has learned this and offers me related titles right on my homepage. I was surprised to see Barbara Kingsolver's upcoming novel available for request. Sometimes new releases by really big name authors aren't available, but I freaked out when I saw this new collection of stories from Stefan Zweig. He's one of my favorite 20th century Austrian writers, who is known for books like The Post Office Girl and Beware of Pity. I absolutely had to request this collection, and I'm crossing my fingers that I get approved. I'll usually browse genres before moving on to searching by specific publisher. It's nice to be able to go right to the catalog for each publisher and see what's already available. One of my favorite literary fiction publishers is Europa Editions. They are Elena Ferrante's publisher, so I always keep an eye out for their upcoming novels. I requested a few from their catalog that I'm really excited to read. One tip I have, if you are a reader who likes to keep your eyes peeled for the next hyped up novel, is to look for whether or not the publisher has included a marketing plan on the book's information page. As you can see with Body Language by Meg Howry, this publisher is throwing a lot of capital and time behind this novel as they believe it will be a popular release. I don't always love chasing down the hyped up books, but I am interested in seeing what the publisher is choosing to highlight. But I've also learned that Netgalley want you to leave reviews and feedback that helps the publisher determine how well a title is going to do upon its publication. Getting that approval rating above a 75% is really the sweet spot for you to get more approvals for the books that you want to read. I just went through Netgalley. I feel pretty confident that I'm going to be approved for some of these. However, as you saw, my Netgalley rating is quite low. So I need to do something first, and that is I need to finish reading and reviewing Go Gentle by Maria Semple. That will hopefully give my feedback rating a boost. But the Netgalley arcs that I want to read and review per my reading journal are Villa Coco by Andrew Sean Greer. This is a novel about a young American archivist who takes a job at a crumbling villa in Tuscany, assisting the eccentric 92-year-old Baronessa Coco with cataloging her art and helping her in a final quest to find a lost love. The book is described as a witty, sun-drenched, and charming story about life, love, and finding oneself amidst chaos, featuring eccentric characters and a magical, chaotic setting. It has been very heavily blurbed as like one of the most anticipated literary fictions of 2026. We will see. I have a love-hate relationship with super hyped novels. The next that I requested is Hunger by Choi Jin-young. This is a novel translated from Korean, and it is about a woman who sees her husband or fiance, I can't remember which one, but he dies right on the curb in front of their apartment. And in a shocking expression of grief, she brings his body back to her apartment and proceeds to engage in cannibalism. But what makes this novel very deeply emotional, besides looking at the bizarre ways in which grief manifests itself in a person's life, we also get their backstory. The novel moves very quickly into their relationship and what has very deeply bonded them and why she decided to eat him. The next that I would like to request is Partita by Barbara Kingsolver. This is her new book. She is the author of Demon Copperhead, so love to see that she has a new book out this year. Partita focuses on a pianist named Livia Cable who is forced to confront her past after a phone call from an old lover. Explores themes of music, ambition, and memory as she reflects on her abandoned musical dreams and life altering affair from her youth, contrasting her current modest life with her past as a promising conservatory student. The next that I'm going to request is The Good Eye by Jess Gibson. This one sounded very interesting as far as literary fiction novels go. I love the cover, and this is a debut collection of short stories set in the worlds of art, crime, and fantasy. But what's interesting to me about this book is that Jess Gibson is the daughter of Margaret Atwood, and this is her debut book. So, yeah, I want to read this. The next is The Obsessed by Lizzie Bueller. This is to be published July 28th. It is a coming of age debut novel about a young woman who maps the love plot of her favorite novel into her own life and finds herself flailing when she gets into a relationship with a fellow literary obsessive. That sounds awesome. I've already been approved for this one, so I need to download it and start reading it. It's only 300 pages, so I'm hoping again that I can read it quickly, leave some feedback, and bump my review rating, because that is a big indicator for publishers. When a user has a higher feedback ratio, you're more likely to get approved for those books that you want to read. So I definitely need to make sure that I'm going through and catching up on some of those that have been sitting in my dashboard. But like I said, I really want this summer to be full of incredible literature by incredible female authors. And I have a strong feeling about some of these. Have any of these been on your radar? My book journal has been woefully neglected. I have 2 pages that I need to catch up on. I got put at a standstill because a book that I was reading ended up being a DNF, and I'm not sure if I should include that in here. I think I'm not going to. If it's a DNF, we will just let that live invisibly in my mind. So I have to print out one more picture, and then I've got to write 5 mini reviews, which shouldn't be difficult. So I'm going to do that now. Just go through and write down my general thoughts for each book, and then have some lunch.
Open air, side by side we sway there in all the colors.